first verse. Jerusalem on its last legs. The master God of the angel armies is emptying Jerusalem and Judah of all the basic necessities, plain bread and water to begin with. He's withdrawing police and protection, judges and courts, pastors and teachers, captains and generals, doctors and nurses, and yes, even the repairmen and jack of all trades. He says, I'll put little kids in charge of the city. Schoolboys and schoolgirls will order everyone around. People will be at each other's throats, stabbing one another in the back, neighbor against neighbor, young against old, the no account against the well-respected. One brother will grab another and say, you look like you've got a head on your shoulders. Do something. Get us out of this mess. And he'll say, me? Not me. I don't have a clue. Don't put me in charge of anything. Jerusalem on its last legs. Judah is soon down for the count. Everything people say and do is at cross purposes with God. A slap in my face, brazen in their depravity. They flaunt their sins like degenerate Sodom, doomed to their eternal souls. They've made their bed, now they'll sleep in it. Reassure the righteous that their good living will pay off, but doomed to the wicked, disaster. Everything they did will be done to them. Skinny kids terrorize my people. Silly girls bully them around. My dear people, your leaders are taking you down a blind alley. They're sending you off on a wild goose chase. A city brought to her knees by her sorrows. God enters the courtroom. He takes his place at the bench to judge his people. God calls for order in the court, hauls the leaders of his people into the dock. You played havoc with this country. Your houses are stuffed with what you've stolen from the poor. What is this anyway? Stomping on my people, grinding the faces of the poor into the dirt. That's what the master God of the angel army says. God says, Zion women are stuck up, prancing around in their high heels, making eyes at all men in the street, swinging their hips, the blood of Jesus, tossing their hair, gaudy and garish, in cheap jewelry. The master will fix it so that those Zion women will all turn bald, scabby, bald-headed women. The master will do it. Jesus help. The time is coming when the master will strip them of their fancy baubles, the dangling earrings, anklets and bracelets, combs and mirrors and silk scarves, diamond brooches, pearl necklaces, rings on their fingers and the rings on their toes, the latest fashions and hats, exotic perfumes and aphrodisiacs, gowns and capes, all the world's finest in fabrics and design. Instead of wearing seductive scents, these women are going to smell like rotten cabbages. Instead of modeling flowing gowns, they'll be sporting rags. Instead of their stylish hairdos, scruffy heads. Instead of beauty marks, scabs and scars. Your finest fighting men will be killed, your soldiers left dead on the battlefield. The entrance gate design will be clotted with people mourning their dead, a city stooped under the weight of her loss, brought to her knees by her sorrows. Isaiah 4. That will be the day when seven women will gang up on one man saying, we'll take care of ourselves, get our own food and clothes, just give us a child. Make us pregnant so we'll have something to live for, God's branch. And that's when God's branch will sprout green and lush. The produce of the country will give Israel's survivors something to be proud of again. Oh, they'll hold their heads high. Everyone left behind in Zion, all the discards and rejects in Jerusalem will be reclassified as holy, alive, and therefore precious. God will give Zion's women a good bath. He'll scrub the blood-stained city of its violence and brutality, purge the place with the firestorm of judgment. And God will bring back the ancient pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night, and mark Mount Zion and everyone in it with his glorious presence, his immense protective presence, shade from the burning sun and shelter from the driving rain. Isaiah 5, looking for a crop of justice. I'll sing a ballad to the one I love, a love ballad about his vineyard. The one I loved had a vineyard, a fine, well-placed vineyard. He hoed the soil and pulled the weeds and planted the very best vines. He built a lookout, built a wine press, a vineyard to be proud of. He looked for a vintage yield of grapes, but all his plans, he got garbage grapes. Now listen to what I'm telling you, you who live in Jerusalem and Judah. What do you think is going on between me and my vineyard? Can you think of anything I could have done to my vineyard that I didn't do? When I expected good grapes, why did I get bitter grapes? Well, now let me tell you what I'll do to my vineyard. I'll tear down its fence and let it go ruin. I'll knock down the gate and let it be trampled. I'll turn it into a patch of weeds, untended, uncared for. Thistles and thorns will take over. I'll give order to the clouds. Don't rain on that vineyard ever. Don't you get it? The vineyard of God of the angel armies is the country of Israel. All the men and women of Judah are the garden he was so proud of. He looked for a crop of justice and saw them murdering each other. He looked for a harvest of righteousness and heard only the moans of victims. You who call evil good and good evil. Doomed to you who buy up all the houses and grab all the land for yourselves. evicting the old owners, posting no trespassing signs, taking over the country, leaving everyone homeless and landless. I overheard God of the angel army say those mighty houses will end up empty. Those extravagant estates will be deserted. A 10-acre vineyard will produce a pint of wine, a 50-pound sack of seed, and a quart of grain. Doom to those who get up early and start drinking booze before breakfast, who stay up all hours of the night, drinking themselves into a stupor. They make sure their banquets are well furnished with harps and flutes and plenty of wine. But they'll have nothing to do with the work of God. Pay no mind to what he is doing. Therefore, my people will end up in exile because they don't know the score. Their honored men will starve to death, and the common people die of thirst. Sheol developed a huge appetite, swallowing people nonstop. Big people and little people alike, down that gullet, to say nothing of all the drunks. The down and out on a par with the high and mighty, windbag boasters crumble, flaccid as a punctured bladder. But by working justice, God of the angel armies will be a mountain. By working righteousness, holy God will show what holy is. And lambs will graze as if they own the place, kids and calves right at home in the ruins. Doom to you who use lies to sell evil, who haul sin to market by truckload, who say, what's God waiting for? Let him get a move on so we can see it. Whatever the Holy of Israel is cooked up, we'd like to check it out. Doom to you who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness in place of light and light in place of darkness, who substitute bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Doom to you who think you're so smart, who hold such a high opinion of yourselves. All you're good is at drinking, champion boozers who collect trophies from drinking bouts, and then line your pockets with bribes from the guilty while you violate the rights of the innocent. But they won't get by with it. As fire eats stubble and dry grass goes up in smoke, their souls will atrophy, their achievements crumble into dust because they said no to the revelation of the God of the angel armies. It would have nothing to do with the Holy of Israel. That's why God flamed out in anger against his people, reached out and knocked them down. The mountains trembled as their dead bodies piled up in the streets. But even after that, he was still angry. His fist still raised, ready to hit them again. He raised a flag, signaling a distant nation. Whistles for people at the ends of the earth. And here they come on the run. None drag their feet. No one stumbles. No one sleeps or dawdles. Shirts are on and pants buckled. Every boot is spit, polished, and tied. Their arrows are sharp, bows strung. The hooves of their horses shod, chariot wheels greased, roaring like a pride of lions. The full-throated roars of young lions. They growl and seize their prey, dragging it off. No rescue for that day. They'll roar and roar and roar on that day like the roar of ocean billows. Look as long as hard as you like at that land. You'll see nothing but darkness and trouble. Every light in the sky will be blacked out by the clouds. Isaiah 6, holy, holy, holy. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the master sitting on the throne, high exalted, and the train of his robes filled the temple. Angel seraphs hovered above him, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 wings their feet. With 2 they flew, and they called back and forth one to the other. Holy, holy, holy is God of the angel armies. His bright glory fills the whole earth. The foundations tremble at the sound of the angel voices, and then the whole house filled with smoke. I said, doom, it's doomsday. I'm as good as dead. Every word I've ever spoken is tainted, blasphemous even. And the people I live with talk the same way, using words that corrupt and desecrate. And here I look for God in the face, the king of the God of the angel armies. Then one of the angel seraphs flew to me. He held a live coal that he'd taken with tongs from the altar. He touched my mouth with the coal and said, look, this coal has touched your lips. Gone your guilt, your sins wiped out. And then I heard the voice of the master. Whom shall I send? Who will go for us? I spoke up, I'll go, send me. He said, go and tell this people, listen hard, but you aren't going to get it. Look hard, but you won't catch on. Make these people blockheads with fingers in their ears and blindfolds on their eyes. They won't see a thing, won't hear a thing. So they won't have a clue about what's going on. Yes, so they won't turn around and be made whole. Astonished, I said, and Master, how long is this to go on? He said, until the cities are empty. Not a soul left in the cities. Houses empty of people. Countryside empty of people. Until I, God, get rid of everyone, sending them off. The land totally empty. And even if some should survive, say a tenth, the devastation will start up again. The country will look like pine and oak forest with every tree cut down. Every tree a stump, a huge field of stumps. But there's a holy seed in those stumps. Now that's a sermon right there. There's a holy seed in those stumps. Everything's been cut down to a stump, but there's a holy seed in those stumps. My God, this is the word of the Lord. There's a holy seed in that stump.